Morning prayer for a miracle today. Good morning. Before you get out of bed, before you check your phone, before the day pulls you into its rush, let's pause here together for just a few quiet minutes. Take a slow breath in, and let it out gently. Feel your feet, still warm under the blanket. Feel the stillness of this early moment, before the world gets loud. Today, we are going to pray for a miracle. Not a small, ordinary request, but a real, honest, hopeful prayer, the kind that reaches up and asks God to move in a real way in your life today. Whatever you are facing, whatever door feels closed, whatever burden has been sitting on your chest for days or weeks or even years, this morning we bring it into the light, and we ask boldly for God's help. You do not need to feel strong right now. You do not need to have it all figured out. You only need to be willing to hope, just a little, just enough to open your heart to what God might do today. So let's begin gently, the way the sun begins to rise, slowly, quietly, and then, all at once, filling the whole sky with light. This is a morning prayer, a time to sit quietly with God before the noise of the day begins. It is a moment to remind your heart of something important, that you are not walking into today alone, and that the same God who has done great things throughout history is still doing great things now, in ordinary lives, in ordinary mornings, in ordinary people just like you. We are going to walk through some old stories together, stories of people who needed a miracle and received one, not because they were perfect, not because they had it all figured out, but because they were willing to trust, even a little, even when the odds looked impossible. As we walk through these stories, let your heart soften. Let hope begin to rise in you, slowly, gently, the way morning light rises over the hills. You do not have to force this feeling. Just let it come, in its own time, the way warmth comes back into cold hands held near a fire. Let's begin with a story about a woman who had been waiting for her miracle for a very long time. Her name is not recorded, but her story has been told for thousands of years, because it speaks to something so many of us understand deeply, the exhaustion of waiting, the tiredness of hoping for years without seeing change, and the courage it takes to reach out one more time. For 12 long years, this woman had lived with an illness that drained her strength and kept her separated from the normal rhythms of life around her. She had spent everything she had on doctors and treatments, and instead of getting better, she had only grown weaker. 12 years is a long time to carry a burden. 12 years is a long time to keep believing that things could change. Many people in her position would have given up hope entirely. It would have been understandable. It would have been, in some ways, the easier path, to simply accept that this was her life now, and stop hoping for something different. But something in her heart refused to fully let go of hope. She had heard about a teacher moving through the towns nearby, someone people were saying could heal the sick, calm the storms, bring peace to troubled hearts. She did not know exactly what to expect. She did not have any guarantee that reaching out would change anything. But she decided, on that particular morning, to try one more time. She made her way through the crowded street, moving carefully through the press of people surrounding this teacher, and she thought to herself, quietly, almost too afraid to hope it out loud, if I can only touch the edge of his robe, I believe I will be healed. It was a small, quiet hope. It was not loud or dramatic. It was simply the last flicker of belief left in a tired heart, reaching out one more time. And in that ordinary moment, in the middle of an ordinary crowded street, something extraordinary happened. The moment her fingers touched the edge of his robe, she felt something change inside her body, immediately, completely. 12 years of suffering ended in a single, quiet moment of reaching out. When the teacher noticed what had happened, he did not scold her for approaching without permission, or make her feel foolish for her quiet hope. Instead, he turned to her gently and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." Notice this carefully, because it matters for you this morning too. It was not a loud faith. It was not a perfect faith. It was a small, tired, quiet faith, reaching out one more time after 12 long years of disappointment. And that small faith was enough. Maybe you have been waiting for your own miracle for a long time. Maybe your waiting has not been 12 years, but it has felt just as long, just as tiring, just as discouraging. This morning, you do not need a loud, perfect faith. You only need enough hope to reach out one more time. Let's think about another story now, one about ordinary people facing an impossible situation, with nothing but a small amount of bread and a few fish, and a crowd of thousands of hungry people waiting to be fed. It had been a long day. A large crowd had followed a group of teachers and their students out into a quiet place, hoping to hear words of hope and encouragement. As the day stretched into evening, the practical problem became impossible to ignore. Thousands of people were hungry, and there was no way, by any normal calculation, to feed them all. The disciples, practical and a little anxious, suggested sending the crowd away to find food in nearby villages. It made sense. It was the reasonable solution. There was simply not enough food for everyone, and pretending otherwise seemed foolish. But when they searched the crowd, they found a small boy willing to offer what little he had, 5 small loaves of bread and 2 small fish. It was, by any practical measure, laughably small compared to the need in front of them. Feeding one hungry child with that amount would have been reasonable. Feeding thousands seemed impossible. And yet, the teacher took that small offering, looked up toward heaven, gave thanks, and began to distribute it among the crowd. And somehow, impossibly, wonderfully, there was enough. Not just enough, but more than enough, with baskets of food left over at the end of the day. This story has comforted tired, worried hearts for thousands of years, because it reminds us of something important. God does not need us to have everything figured out. God does not need us to bring an overflowing abundance to the table. He simply asks us to bring what little we have, willingly, honestly, and trust Him to multiply it in ways we cannot fully understand. Maybe this morning, you feel like that small boy, holding only a little, facing a need that feels far too large for what you have to offer. Maybe your strength feels small. Maybe your resources feel small. Maybe your hope feels small. This morning, you are invited to bring that small amount forward anyway, honestly, without pretending it is more than it is, and trust that it can be multiplied in ways you cannot yet see. Let's think of one more story, about a group of frightened travelers on a small boat, caught in the middle of a sudden, violent storm. They had set out earlier that day under a calm sky, expecting an ordinary crossing. But partway through their journey, the wind rose suddenly, and the waves grew tall and rough, crashing against the sides of their small boat. Water began pouring in. The wind howled around them. Every experienced sailor among them understood, with growing fear, that this storm could easily overwhelm their small vessel. In the middle of this chaos, their teacher was asleep in the back of the boat, calm and undisturbed by the violence of the storm around him. Finally, in desperation, they woke him, their voices tight with fear, asking if he even cared that they were about to be lost in the storm. He stood, looked out at the wind and the waves, and spoke 3 simple words into the chaos. Peace. Be still. And immediately, completely, the wind settled, and the sea grew calm, as smooth and quiet as if the storm had never happened at all. There is something deeply comforting about this story on a morning like this one. Maybe you are facing your own storm right now, a situation that feels chaotic, frightening, completely out of your control. Maybe you have been trying to bail water out of your own small boat for days, weeks, or months, growing more tired and more afraid with every passing hour. This morning, remember that the same voice that calmed a violent sea is still speaking peace into chaotic situations today. Your storm may not disappear in a single instant, the way that storm did on the water. But the same peace that filled that boat is available to fill your heart this morning, even while the wind around you is still blowing. You do not have to face your storm with panic. You can face it with a quiet, steady trust, remembering that you are not alone in the boat, and that peace is possible even in the middle of difficult circumstances. Let's sit with these 3 stories together for a moment. A tired woman who reached out one more time after 12 long years, and found healing in that reaching. A small boy who offered what little he had, and found it multiplied beyond anything he could have imagined. A group of frightened travelers who cried out in the middle of a storm, and found peace where there had only been chaos. None of these people did anything extraordinary. They were simply willing, tired, small, ordinary people who reached toward hope, even when it felt unreasonable to do so. And in each case, something greater than themselves met them there, in their ordinary need, and did something they could not have done on their own. This is the same invitation offered to you this morning. Wherever you are, whatever you are facing, whatever feels impossible or overwhelming or simply too tired to keep hoping for, you are invited to reach out one more time, to bring what little you have to offer, and to trust that peace is possible even in the middle of your storm. Let's take a moment now to think honestly about what your own miracle might look like today. Maybe it is healing, physical or emotional, something in your body or your heart that has been carrying pain for a long time. Maybe it is provision, a need for resources, for work, for enough to get through this season with less fear about tomorrow. Maybe it is peace, simply the desire for a quiet mind and a calm heart in the middle of circumstances that feel chaotic and overwhelming. Maybe it is restoration, a relationship that needs healing, a broken trust that needs to be rebuilt, a distance between you and someone you love that needs to be closed. Whatever your miracle looks like this morning, it is welcome here. You do not have to minimize your need or pretend it is smaller than it feels. You are invited to bring the whole, honest truth of what you are hoping for into this quiet moment. Think, too, about what small offering you might bring this morning, the way that small boy brought his 5 loaves and 2 fish. Maybe your offering is simply your willingness to hope again, after feeling discouraged for a long time. Maybe your offering is a small act of faith today, reaching out to someone, taking one small step toward the change you need. Maybe your offering is simply showing up, honestly, tired and small and uncertain, and trusting that this is enough for today. There is a gentle rhythm to how miracles often unfold. They rarely arrive all at once, with dramatic fanfare and clear, obvious signs. More often, they unfold slowly, quietly, through small steps of faith, ordinary offerings, and a willingness to keep reaching out even when the waiting feels long. This morning, as the sun rises and the day begins to take shape around you, hold on to this gentle hope. You are not asking for something impossible. You are asking a God who has done impossible things throughout history, who multiplied small loaves of bread, who healed tired, waiting hearts, who calmed violent storms with a few quiet words. That same God is present with you this morning, in your ordinary room, on your ordinary morning, ready to meet your ordinary, honest need. Let's slow down a little more this morning, and sit with one more story before we come to prayer, because this one speaks so directly to the ache of waiting for something that seems impossible. There once was an older couple who had spent their whole married life hoping for a child. Year after year passed, and the hope they carried in their younger years slowly grew heavier, harder to hold on to, weighed down by disappointment after disappointment. By the time they reached old age, most reasonable expectations of ever becoming parents had quietly faded. It was simply not something that happened for people their age. It was not something they even allowed themselves to hope for out loud anymore. And yet, one ordinary day, a message arrived that seemed almost impossible to believe. They were told that within the next year, they would finally hold the child they had waited for their entire lives. It is worth pausing here to imagine what that moment must have felt like, the strange mixture of joy and disbelief, hope rising up again after being buried under so many years of disappointment. It is easy to understand why their first reaction was not immediate, confident faith. Instead, there was quiet laughter, a kind of tired, disbelieving laughter that comes from a heart that has been hurt by hope too many times before. It can feel safer, after enough disappointment, to protect yourself by not believing too quickly, by keeping your expectations low, by refusing to let hope rise again only to be disappointed one more time. And yet, the promise remained true, regardless of their doubt. Within the following year, against every reasonable expectation, they welcomed a healthy child into their lives, a child whose very name meant laughter, a beautiful, gentle reminder that the disbelieving laughter of doubt had been quietly transformed into the joyful laughter of fulfilled hope. This story matters this morning because so many of us carry a similar kind of tired doubt. We have hoped before. We have prayed before. We have waited before, and sometimes that waiting has ended in disappointment rather than the miracle we hoped for. It makes sense that hope can feel dangerous after enough disappointment. It makes sense that some part of you might want to protect your heart by expecting less, by keeping your hope small and quiet and guarded. But this morning, you are invited to let hope rise again anyway, even if it feels a little frightening, even if part of you wants to laugh in disbelief at the thought of your situation actually changing. You do not need perfect, unwavering faith to receive a miracle. You only need enough willingness to keep showing up, keep waiting, keep hoping, even with your doubts quietly sitting alongside that hope. Consider, too, how differently this story might have felt if that couple had simply given up entirely, if they had decided years earlier that hoping was too painful, and closed their hearts completely to the possibility of change. The miracle they eventually received required them to keep a small, quiet space open in their hearts, even during the years when nothing seemed to be happening. This morning, whatever you are waiting for, consider gently reopening that small, quiet space in your heart, even if it feels risky, even if part of you wants to protect yourself from more disappointment. You do not have to force yourself into loud, confident certainty. You only have to leave a little room for hope to breathe. There is another old story worth remembering this morning, about a group of tired travelers walking through a vast, dry wilderness, uncertain of how they would find enough food to survive their long journey. Each morning, they woke to find a strange, delicate substance covering the ground around their camp, a kind of bread that seemed to simply appear overnight, enough to feed everyone for that day, but never more than what was needed for that single day. This detail matters deeply this morning. The provision did not arrive all at once, for the whole journey. It arrived daily, morning by morning, exactly enough for that day's need. Anyone who tried to gather extra, out of fear or mistrust about tomorrow, found that the surplus spoiled overnight, useless by morning. There is a gentle lesson tucked into this old story, one that speaks quietly to anxious hearts today. Miracles often arrive daily, not all at once. Provision often comes exactly enough for today, without necessarily answering every worry about tomorrow. This can feel frustrating to a mind that wants complete certainty about the future. But there is also something deeply peaceful about learning to trust for just today, releasing the pressure of solving every future problem all at once. This morning, you do not need to have a miracle big enough to cover every future uncertainty. You only need enough provision, enough peace, enough strength, enough hope, for today. Tomorrow's portion will arrive tomorrow, in its own time, in its own way. As we move now toward our closing prayer, let's bring together everything these old stories have gently offered us this morning. A tired woman who reached out one more time after years of disappointment, and found healing in that reaching. A small boy who offered what little he had, and found it multiplied into more than enough. A group of frightened travelers who cried out in the middle of a storm, and found peace where there had only been chaos. An older couple who let hope rise again despite years of disappointment, and found joy where they expected only more waiting. And tired travelers in a dry wilderness, who learned to trust for daily provision, one ordinary morning at a time. Every one of these stories began with ordinary people in ordinary, difficult circumstances. None of them had extraordinary faith or extraordinary resources. What they had was simply a willingness to keep reaching, keep hoping, keep trusting, even in small, quiet, imperfect ways. And in each case, something greater than themselves met them exactly where they were. This morning, wherever you are, whatever you are carrying, you are invited into that same quiet, honest hope. Not loud, not perfect, not without doubt, but real, and present, and enough for today. Take one more slow breath before we pray. Feel the morning light beginning to fill the room around you, whether it is bright and golden this morning, or soft and gray behind clouds. Either way, the light is there, quietly returning, the way it does every single morning, faithfully, without fail, whether you notice it or not. There is something worth remembering in that quiet, daily faithfulness of the sunrise. The sun does not rise dramatically only on days when everything feels hopeful. It rises quietly on ordinary days too, on tired days, on discouraged days, on days when nothing seems to be changing. Its faithfulness does not depend on how you feel about your circumstances. It simply keeps rising, morning after morning, offering light regardless of what kind of night came before it. This morning, let that quiet faithfulness remind you of a deeper faithfulness, one that does not depend on your mood, your doubts, or how confident your prayers sound out loud. The same steady care that brings the sunrise each morning is present with you now, in your ordinary room, on your ordinary morning, ready to meet you exactly as you are. Think for a moment about the specific miracle you are hoping for today. Let yourself picture it gently, not with pressure or desperation, but with a soft, honest hope. What would it look like for this situation to shift? What would it feel like to finally receive the answer you have been waiting for? You do not have to know exactly how it will happen. You only have to allow yourself to imagine, gently, that it is possible. And now, let's bring all of this together, quietly, honestly, into prayer. Now, let us pray together. Heavenly Father, thank you for this new morning, for the gift of another day, another chance, another opportunity to hope. Thank you for waking me up today, for the breath in my lungs, for the light beginning to spread across the sky outside my window. Lord, I bring my need to you this morning, honestly, without pretending it is smaller than it feels. You know exactly what I am facing. You know the burden I have been carrying, the situation that feels impossible, the waiting that has grown long and tiring. I do not have to explain it perfectly. You already understand. This morning, I ask boldly for a miracle. I ask for healing where there has been pain. I ask for provision where there has been lack. I ask for peace where there has been chaos and worry. I ask for restoration where there has been distance and brokenness. I bring my small offering, whatever little faith and strength I have this morning, and I trust you to multiply it in ways I cannot yet see. Help me to reach out today, even if my faith feels tired and small, the way that woman reached out after 12 long years of waiting. Help me to trust that a small offering can become more than enough in your hands. Help me to hear your voice speaking peace into my storm, even while the wind is still blowing around me. Give me eyes to notice the small signs of your work today, even before the full miracle arrives. Give me patience for the waiting, and hope for the unfolding. Help me to walk through today with a quiet confidence that you are near, that you are working, and that nothing about my situation is too difficult for you. Thank you in advance for what you are going to do today, even the parts one cannot yet see or understand. Thank you for being a God who meets ordinary people in ordinary moments and does extraordinary things. Thank you for meeting me this morning, right here, right now, exactly as I am. I release my worry into your hands this morning. I release my fear about how things will unfold. I choose, today, to walk forward with hope, trusting that you are already working on my behalf, even in ways I cannot see yet. Bless this day ahead of me. Bless the people I will meet, the conversations I will have, the decisions I will make. Let your peace go before me, and let your presence stay with me through every hour of this day. Whatever this day holds, let me carry with me the quiet confidence that I am not alone, and that a miracle is possible, even today. In a spirit of hope and trust, I say Amen. As you step into this day now, carry this quiet hope with you. You do not need to see the whole picture this morning. You only need to take the next small step, trusting that today holds more possibility than you can currently imagine. Look for the small signs today. A kind word from someone unexpected. A door opening that you thought was closed. A moment of unexpected peace in the middle of a busy afternoon. A small provision arriving exactly when you needed it. These small moments are often the beginning threads of a larger miracle unfolding slowly, quietly, over time. You are not walking into today alone. Whatever storm you are facing, whatever tired waiting you have carried, whatever small offering feels too small to matter, bring it forward today, honestly and openly. Trust that it is enough. Trust that today holds real possibility for change, for healing, for provision, for peace. This is your morning. This is your moment to reach out one more time, to offer what little you have, and to trust that something greater than yourself is ready to meet you here, in this ordinary day, with an extraordinary kind of care. Go now, into this day, carrying hope quietly in your heart. Whatever today holds, you do not walk into it empty-handed. You walk into it with faith, with trust, and with the quiet expectation that a miracle, in whatever form it takes, is possible today. Good morning. This is your day. Walk into it with hope.